Hey, it's Penny here, and today I want to dive into something that is often misunderstood, and it is something that will help you to weather what comes at you in life, to navigate those changes, and to do it with a greater degree of peace, no matter what the storm is going on around you. So, what am I talking about today? Emotional resilience. Now, just to give you some background, it's pretty well known if you've listened to the podcast. I have been a hypnotist since 2013, so for 11 years. But for 10 years of that, my work has centered around understanding emotions, understanding valid emotions, understanding emotions that are based in old events and are actually triggers, emotions that aren't based on accurate perception, and working with people on emotions and doing hypnosis and root cause work, anger release, release of shame, guilt, all of the things that can come up. I have learned a lot about my clients, and I've seen the patterns, and I've had I've been given the gift. I was given this gift that not many people have the opportunity for. I would dare say I am probably the only person who has had the opportunity that I've had to observe my clients pre and post sessions in the context of the work that I do. Now, I know there are other hypnotists who have um, been in a similar situation, but I specifically use root cause work. I specifically help people go to the core and neutralize the source of the problem, because it doesn't matter if we address the problem in the present. If we have not neutralized the source, that trigger is going to come up again and again and again, but under different circumstances. So, just for fun, I'm going to make myself a note here. Just for fun, in the show notes, I'm going to link you to a couple of TikTok videos I made three years ago. I'll let you see some of the old stuff that I've created, but I talk about how if we don't address things properly, we are playing whack-a-mole with our mindset. So, the opportunity that I had, that I'm willing to bet the house that no one else has had, I do root cause hypnosis work. And I was the official referral hypnotist in a very well known transformational coaching program. And within this transformational coaching program, Jim has this proprietary way of walking people through a personal transformation. It's very systematic. Everything is so intentional. It just defies belief. I went through the coaching program because I had to work on my own stuff. That's why I was there. I was working on my own ish because I knew there was more available to me. I knew I wanted to be a full-time business owner. And I knew that there was a lot that I didn't know about myself, about what I needed to be and to do to achieve that. So, about 3 rounds in, all of a sudden one day, it just crystallized for me what he was doing. And I'm not going to share that here. You can go follow Jim. I'm going to put all the links. You can catch up with him and sign up and experience it for yourself if you want to. But that was right around the same time when Jim reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you be my official referral hypnotist in the next round of the program?" And I was scared, shaking in my boots, but I said yes. What this gift was is that in the community, I could see what people were talking about that was coming up in their lives. I was there for my own work, but I would also observe other people because I was also in my mind there to learn how other people process their reality, how people connect the dots in their own mind. And then that allowed me to be able to extract patterns. I could see patterns that people didn't see going on. Once people were referred to me and some of those became clients, I got to know them on a much more intimate level than what was in the program, in the group community. So I had my awareness of things that they had been sharing. And then they would come to me one-on-one and we would pull things apart. And my process is much more advanced now based off of this gift. They would start to talk about things, and I was able to connect the dots because of all the root cause work I've done and the work around emotions. And we would work through things. And then as they continued to interact in the group and they continued to actively peel these layers of their identity, to peel these layers of their life, to continue their transformational journey, I was able to watch how that interaction was for them, what that process was for them to the degree that they shared in the group. Now, with all of this work, with well over 1,000 hours of client work, just with people who went through that program, thousands of client hours, I began to notice certain things. And that is how people were impacted when they pushed through emotions, when they believed they had to be strong no matter what, when they're sacrificing their own mental and emotional health. I also saw what happened with people who had done a lot of work on themselves and they gave themselves permission to feel their feelings. I saw what happened when people gave themselves permission to not be perfect. I saw what happened when people gave themselves permission to accept that they may be going through a period of life that was tough, was challenging, and that it was okay if they didn't have it all figured out. That, my friends, is emotional resilience. Emotional resilience is when you come to a place where you may still have triggers, you still may be reactive, but when things get challenging and tough, you are not holding yourself to the standard of rigidity, that you have to be strong, that you have to push through it, which increases the likelihood that you're going to judge yourself, that you're going to become frustrated with yourself, that you are increasing the downward pressure and stress on yourself immensely. And depending on the situation, being strong and pushing through a situation may actually be what breaks you. Emotional resilience is when we can experience a situation, and in moments the emotions may be really big, and then in other situations they may be really small, but we give ourselves the grace and the space to expand and flow with those emotions and to accept that we're doing our best. And I was not always emotionally resilient. I see a lot of people knocking emotional resilience, and that's because emotional resilience, for some people, they have misconstrued that as being rigid and strong and unforgiving to survive a situation. And resilience is not that. Emotional resilience is being able to adapt, to being able to allow yourself to feel and to navigate a situation the best that you can, without denying your emotions. Now, that doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean it's easy, but think of a rubber band. You can stretch it and then you can gently let go of it. It goes back to its original shape, right? You can stretch a rubber band. It has that resilience. It returns back to you shape. If you stretch it really far and you hold it, when you release it, it may not be exactly the same because that event shifted it somewhat, which is natural. That's normal. That happens. Emotional resilience is a very good thing. Emotional resilience is healthy for you. Now, when we carry these stories that we have to be strong, that we're weak if we can't push through it, there are some situations that are minor, a little bit of fear of being on video, just push through it, just do it anyway. However, there are life situations where pushing through may not be the answer. I've talked about this with my experience in the past with grief, anger, and becoming suicidal. I pushed through. I pushed through. I ignored my feelings because in my mind, things had to get done. So I pushed through it. And then once things had settled, when the grief tried to come up, I gratitude bypassed it. When the anger tried to come up, I gratitude bypassed it. I ignored it. I did not process it until it broke me. It broke me 3 years later. We may have stories. We may have family beliefs. Well, this is the way the Meltons handle it. Or you're a Baxter, right? This is the way the Baxter family does it. I've actually had clients who came to me to shed the identity that they had to be like their family, like it had been ingrained from birth. This is the Melton family way. Oh, you're 150 pounds overweight. That's just a Melton thing. We can have beliefs around what it means to be strong, to be confident, to show up in the world that come from our family, that maybe it comes from coaches. When I say coaches, I'm talking sports. Particularly, let's think about young athletes who want to train to become pro or to go into the Olympics. There are moments where they get frustrated, they get overwhelmed, and they are in this culture of it's not acceptable, depending on the coach. But you see stories of this. It's not acceptable to show how you feel. You are weak if you show emotion, right? If we have triggers, if you've reached a point in your life where you're like, Penny, I don't feel emotions. I don't have emotions. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Somewhere along the way, either a situation occurred and in that moment you realized it was extremely unsafe for you to express those emotions, or you were taught it was a weakness. It was unacceptable for you to show those emotions, that professionals don't do this, or whatever the case may be. I could give you a list of stories that people have been told about expressing their feelings that is just endless. What happened was, to protect you because your mind perceived a potential threat to you around expressing emotions, you feel those emotions. Your mind expresses them to you differently. So instead of feeling butterflies in your stomach or a gut punch in your stomach, you may end up developing a delayed symptom. Maybe it's stress headaches. Maybe it's IBS. Chronic pain is another one. We can have chronic pain without an identifiable source, fibromyalgia. Okay. The body will find a way to express your emotions. And if you're not learning to express them in a healthy way, it is going to get your attention through your physical body. It's what happens. Everything is connected. Your mind and your emotions are not separate from the rest of your body. You can use hypnosis to reframe those stories, to reframe those beliefs, to outright give yourself permission to let go of the BS belief that you should not express your emotions. Now, what happens? Let's just say, for instance, what happens if you go in and you do hypnosis and you neutralize these triggers and you release stored stuck emotion from the past, and you are learning, right? You're learning to trust yourself. You are learning that it's safe to express your emotions. You're learning how to do that in a way that is helpful and healthy to you. What happens after 6 months goes by? What happens after a year goes by? For most of my clients, there are many ways to handle this. I apprentice with a shaman. Yes, I do self hypnosis, but I apprentice with a shaman, and I have done a lot of work to release the beliefs and the structures in my life that for most people keeps us attached to things, to ideas, to people, to circumstances. For me personally, a lot of the work is learning to take a higher perspective, but not everyone is ready for that yet, or they may not want to do that. And you don't have to apprentice with a shaman to learn to take a higher perspective. It's Christianity, Buddha. There are the same principles in different philosophies and religions around the world. So if you are not a religious person, if you're not into shamanism, if you're not into stoicism or hermetic philosophy, if you're not into exploring and having this deeper understanding of a higher perspective, how can you maintain this place where these emotions do not build back up in your system while you are navigating, understanding your emotions, learning about your emotions, and not letting yourself be triggered? For many of my clients, I teach them a very specific self hypnosis that is a clearing. It's very gentle. It is a clearing hypnosis, but at the same time, it reprograms. It reprograms and it puts in this deep level of belief of self love, self trust. You're good enough. You're worthy. You can do anything you want. It's all in there. And it's so interesting because I have taught this to clients in the past. And when we initially start working together, like a lot of stuff will come up. Think about pouring champagne in the glass and all the bubbles fizz up. A lot of things will come up in the beginning and it seemingly has no connection to what we're working on, and it doesn't have to. But this stuff comes up and gets cleared out. And after they practice for a few months, there's nothing coming up, there's nothing happening. And what happens is in the beginning, there are so many things coming up and being released, and so many insights and ahas and realizations, even on the good side, that when it gets boring, they think it's not working anymore. So here's what they do: they'll stop practicing. And then another couple of months will go by, and I get a message. It's like, oh my God, Penny, I think we need another session. I'm like, what do you mean we need another session? What's going on? Talk to me. And they'll lay it out. And I'll say, okay, what is happening when you practice your self hypnosis? And they're like, well, it got boring. There was nothing happening. So I stopped about 2 months ago. And I'll say, okay, this is what I want you to do. And I give them very specific instructions. And then I want them to practice the self hypnosis after they've followed my instructions. Check back with me in 1 week. And they check back and they're like, it's gone. It's done. They're like, I can't believe that I quit. Like, I'm changing my schedule. I'm going to make sure to get up 15 minutes early every day so I can start my day like this every day. They will say, you know what, when I don't practice, it feels like the static comes back in my life. Why is that? Because we go through our day every day and someone is going to say something. Somebody's going to pull out in traffic and cut us off. Somebody is going to be rude to us in the grocery store. Oh, geez, they must be having a bad day or whatever. But deep down inside, it can resonate with something in the past: frequency, emotion, vibration. You've seen the videos of the guy with the tuning forks that are on the same frequency. When that person was rude to you, even though they didn't bother you in that moment, you're like, oh, wow, they're having a bad day. Deep inside, it resonated with something. The self hypnosis that I teach works off of resonance, it works off of frequency. So it will then go in and it will clear that out. So, working with my shaman, One of the things that he shared with me, and I'm sharing this with you because he used almost the exact same metaphor that is used to describe the self-hypnosis process that I teach. And that is that our mind is like a computer. We have the hard drive, there's the basic operating system, and then there's the programming that we put into it. When your computer starts running out of memory, when the cache is full, the temporary files are full, the RAM is full, nothing starts to go smooth the way that it should. When we have these little moments in our day to day that deep on the inside, they're like emotionally resonating with something, we want to clear that stuff out because that stuff will build up over time and it will impact us. Some people in a minor way, some people in a big way. We're all different. But with the self-hypnosis that I teach, daily we're clearing the cache. So in the beginning, you're removing the faulty programming. In the beginning, you're removing the false beliefs, the false perceptions. You're getting rid of the anger that you've carried around for so many years, or the shame or the guilt, or the thoughts that you're not worthy, not good enough. When you first start practicing, you're moving all that stuff out. Then this literally becomes a way of raising your frequency and vibration every time you practice, even in the beginning. You're raising your frequency and vibration. But once you've cleared out the faulty programming, when you practice daily, it's like clearing the cache every single day. Everything runs beautifully and smoothly because you're keeping this cleared out. My shaman says that so many people go through life and they attempt to put good into their life. They'll do affirmations. They raise their vibration with meditation. They will do scripting. They will journal. And they're trying to put this stuff in their mind. They're really making an honest and concerted effort to make their life better. But there's no room for it to go because their mind is already filled with this faulty programming. Their RAM is full, their cache is overflowing. So you get a very brief experience of feeling better, of having a higher vibration. But because you're carrying around this other stuff, there's no room for it to actually go in. So you have to clean out and you have to get rid of all the stuff. Then, as you go through life, your journey is to keep your cache cleared, to keep your RAM empty, so you have the bandwidth to process life. And even though the self-hypnosis that I teach, when I learned it, it wasn't taught to me in the context of shamanism. It was just taught to me in the context of a mind, body, spirit. But it is a divinely channeled work. And when I mentioned earlier that religions and philosophies, for the most part, have they have similar origin stories and teachings around faith and being open and being receptive and the power of our words, love, forgiveness, not judging. They all have these similarities. So I was surprised, but I was not surprised when Don Javier shared that with me, because that's exactly what that process is meant to do. It's meant to keep you clear so you can continue to grow. This process of expansion, this process of growth, this process of building emotional resiliency, of decreasing our attachments, of decreasing judgment, of letting go of our triggers, it's an ongoing thing. It's what we came here for. We came here to grow. And I realize I have gone way off of emotional resilience, or at least it seems that way. But actually, I've not. Emotional resilience, grace, space, compassion for yourself, and not telling yourself that you have to be strong, not telling yourself that you can't waver, to give yourself the space to feel your feelings, to know that whatever it is that you're feeling, they are your feelings, and that's all you need to know to allow those feelings to be validated so that you can let them go and move through them. And the reason it was so important to me to come in here and share this with you today is over the past week, I've had the stark realization. I mean, I knew it, we know it, but sometimes something is really put in our face and it is magnified to the extent that you cannot deny it. And it becomes a knowing that is something that is meant to be shared. All of these different things that I've brought up over the last few months around hypnosis and spirituality, being able to surrender. There are several episodes over the last 6 months that basically they are nuggets that allow you to build your emotional resiliency. So if this is your first time listening to the podcast, go back over the last several months. Heck, go all the way back to the beginning in 2020. And not only will you see many different aspects of the work that I've done because things have gone through multiple iterations, but you will also witness my own journey. This is possible for each and every one of us. We simply have to decide that this is what we want. This is what we desire, that it's okay for us to want more. It's okay for us to want a better life. It's okay if we have moments where it feels like the world is going to shit around us and we allow ourselves to feel those feelings and then regroup and carry on. That is emotional resilience. I'll see you next week.